So this first match will be pipeline problems. Futurama is going with the cyan black hand, and Rex will be picking the purple nod. I have to say, I'm not particularly favouring Futurama's chances the longer this game goes. I think Rex's Scorpion tank build is very potent with the laser capacitors, and Black Hand not having that, it's a huge deal. No, not that much. Let's just put it up a little bit more. Otherwise it will be torture, this, wouldn't it? Anyway, any differences from either side yet with the build order? No, there doesn't seem to be. There's a lot of different variants of this, but it seems like both of them are mirroring each other, going for the barracks engineer at the start of the game, opening up with a nod crane. It's one of the only maps where cranes make sense, even though there is blue Tiberium on this map to gather at the start. It doesn't feel like games are accelerated due to the existence of a full blue tib field in the beginning, just because you have to build this crane, and then more often than not you build 3 or 4 refineries or 4 a war factory. But seeing how there is 2 nods on this map, there is an increased chance of being rushed by flame tanks, by getting hit by reckoners. Then in that case you're probably better off going for a war factory and not risking it. Rex may actually be going for a refinery, likewise for Futurama. So both of these guys just going to go with this. This may cause harvester bugging, by the way, putting a refinery so close to the terrain like this. I'm not saying that it will, but it does have an increased chance of happening when you have it deployed like that. Good anti-scouting potential for Futurama early on, but the longer this game goes, the more in favor it will be for Vanilla Nod. This is especially true nowadays since R19, because laser capacitor raider buggies no longer deal less damage versus infantry than before the upgrade. That was actually a thing. When you upgraded lasers, it made the buggy weaker, not stronger. That is no longer a thing. In fact, buggies do get a minor increase to their anti-infantry damage with an upgrade. I mean, who would have thought, right? So just some Raider Buggy Scout coming in. 3 and 2 there for Futurama. Down in the south we can see Rex playing the same way. He's going to transfer 1 additional harvester. Both players, I believe, have stuck with their crane. You couldn't get more of a mirror build than this, which makes me question Futurama's game plan, because he's going for Black Hand, yet not utilizing any of the Black Hand units. Maybe he's planning to go for Purifying Flame, Purifiers with infantry, charged particle beams, perhaps a couple fanatics mixed in as well to deal with those Scorpion tanks that attempt to crush. But generally speaking, a couple of Purifiers with Purifying Flame will destroy Scorps before they close in to crush your infantry. Having vehicles mixed in with a bunch of infantry also prevents the crush. It makes it much more difficult for someone to crush your infantry if there's like a bunch of Purifiers around it or a bunch of Predator tanks. So maybe that's what Futurama has in store for us. Otherwise, I don't really see the point of playing Black Hand against Nod. He's got a couple of bikes over on the left flank. About half a dozen. Not going to find any resistance down here for Rex. So Rex may be losing at least 1 harvester. Futurama may be in a decent spot, but looking at the 3rd Tiberium field, Futurama, he has not yet established an expansion. He opted for a tier 3. He's going for that charged particle beam upgrade. Here's me hoping he did not forget to upgrade quad turrets. He is really handicapping himself by not getting quad turrets if he's choosing to base push with particle beam shredder turrets. A counter attack is in effect for Rex, about 8 or so bikes there, but I don't imagine they'll accomplish much the moment that charged particle beam upgrade is researched. Those bikes are going to be pretty worthless. Redeemer engineering facility deployed to the front line. Rex transitioning into Scorpion tanks with dozer blades. A fine choice. Could even mix in 1 or 2 flame tanks with this force of Scorps and just move in. Purifies out for Futurama. I like it a lot, but without Purifying Flame, I'm not convinced this is the play. Purifier moving through. Obelisk does get deployed. This seems a bit of a waste though, doesn't it? This Purifier just popping tanks. Yeah, these tanks being destroyed. Purifiers also buff infantry in a larger radius now than before. So this Purifier actually doing decent damage. I've had good results with Purifiers lately as well. I held Prime YT's 2 War Factory all-in with Purifiers yesterday. That is all the proof you need for Purifiers being a good unit. Bikes being cleaned up in the north by Futurama. Futurama does hold. He's got 1 Purifier out. Just the 1. So he's using it as a buffing unit. Also, there's a bunch of charged particle beam cabals. And again, he has not purchased the quad turret upgrade, which is really concerning to me. He's just handicapping himself for no reason. Laser capacitor Scorpion tanks going to flank. There's a bunch over here on the right hand side. So Rex, he wants to flank this infantry army. No quad turrets either for Rex. It's an upgrade that you cannot do without as vanilla not, because you don't get that charged particle beam upgrade. The whole point of that was to help Nod and its anti-infantry. But this is looking like a bad situation to be in for Rex. Regen fires off, which means these Scorpion tanks cannot be given orders to crush these rocket squads. And with these rocket squads receiving huge rate of fire buffs from that Purifier, then simply it's just not going to be enough. Obelisk deployed to the front line. There's a bunch of Scorpion tanks over here, but it's not really a game-changing amount. I mean, he could go up here, destroy the power grid. Futurama is about 20 seconds away from building another Obelisk. But yeah, that's going to be it. GG. Futurama takes the first game with Black Hand of all things. So that was a good push by him. He didn't get the quad turret upgrade, so he could improve that the next time by researching quad turrets, maybe even getting the Purifying Flame. It just makes it extra difficult for the Scorpion tanks to crush that. Smash Decision, a solid map choice. One that has recently, I would say, became popular. It's never been a map that was picked, but nowadays you see it picked more. I'd say I have a high number. My average game on this map is pretty good. Memorable games. Played 1 game versus YT on this map yesterday, where I held an all-in with fast tech purifiers. And then I had that other crazy game where I EMP'd a hammerhead when it landed to drop off infantry, and then subsequently bombed it with a vertigo. That happened on this map, and that was the one and only time that I bombed a hammerhead with a vertigo. I didn't use its AA gun, I bombed it with the bomb that it has, which was unusual because hammerheads are aircraft, but when they're landing you can obviously destroy them. They're vulnerable. So down here, spawning as the Cyan GI, it's going to be Futurama. He's up 1-0 in this best of 9 series, and the map is going to be Smash Decision. There's a few key differences with this map and the regular tournament decision, which I'll go over in just a second. But up here in the north, it's going to be Rex. He's going to be playing as the purple Black Hand. Purifies a decent unit on this map from what I found. Great for sneaking around the various choke points, which there are many of. This area is a bit more open compared to the regular decision. The starting tip field is way smaller, so compared to the regular decision, you can only build 2 refineries on this. But on the other hand, there are 2 blue Tiberium fields that spawn with no Tiberium but grow over time. One in the middle here, one in the bottom right corner. There's also an EMP control center tucked away, which I always forget about. It's quite hidden down there. Nonetheless, it is a nice map. It's a different take on Tournament Decision. And even in the top left-hand corner, there is another Tiberium spike. A beautifully crafted map here by Predator. You can see it looks like a real place. And he was just a legend at making maps. I do like the lighting of this map as well. But yeah, what's going on in this game? No one opted for that top left Tiberium spike nor for the EMP. I guess this early on it doesn't make sense to go for the EMP spike. Pitbull will be scared back, so Rex takes first blood. There's a couple of bikes moving in. Futurama going to be a bit exposed to these bikes. No watchtower being queued by him. Possibly a second war factory or a power plant that's just being stalled due to no funds. Futurama drops the power plant. Predator tank will respond. Tiberium spike taking damage by this Cabal. That's not going to do too much, though. That can destroy a tip spike if in a minute or so Black Disciples is researched, because then it'll be a Black Hand Trooper as well, burning down this tip spike. And I don't have... my voice doesn't last very long. Cyber's does. His seemingly lasts for... I need to always take a sip. Alright. Rex popping in with those bikes. Doesn't achieve very much. I mean, he doesn't even force it off the line either. I was casting one of my own games before this, so that probably explains this. Nonetheless, though, I'll try and not lose my voice as I'm casting this, which is always something that I am at risk at. Infantry switch from Rex. Gonna go for that Black Disciple upgrade. Futurama probably has not scouted this yet, though he may expect it to come. I do expect... I don't think double hand of nod is the way to go. I think just a singular hand of nod and then taking up to tier 3 and then subsequently getting the tip chemical plant is way better, because you can force the engagement with the infantry that you build around this tip field and then just tip vein your opponent's army on it and finish off with the militant rocket squads. Black Disciple upgrade though does kick in. There's no Confessor Cabal squad there though to buff those militant rocket squads. Decoy army does get cast there, which does actually deal real damage if the rocket is in motion or is traveling. Don't know how to describe it, and the decoy is taken out. I believe you can force that to happen by selling your tier 2, because the decoy army immediately is neutralized if you don't have a tier 2. So if you power down your tier 2 after firing rockets, you'll probably be able to inflict real damage with those decoys. So if you decoy like 20 rocket squads and attack a harvester and then power down your tier 2 so the decoys disappear, that will probably take out a harvester. Wow, why am I saying these things on stream? I never knew that. I'm just brainstorming things in my mind in real time, and it just occurred to me. We've been trying to kill decoys this whole time with Tiberium exposure and stuff like that. But really, you can just power this down and then it achieves the same effect. It's classed as a bug, but there's nothing you can do about it, I'm afraid, and it happens all the time. It happens with bikes, it happens with decoy infantry. In fact, since the dawn of time, rocket squads that are decoyed up deal real damage. So it's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things. It's possible that it may be fixable. May investigate it But yeah. The longer this game goes for Black Hand, I feel like the worse it will get, though there's no hammerheads for Futurama. Futurama doesn't have very much as far as units are concerned, does he? He has AP ammo, so that's a plus. He's dropping watchtowers. I like a commando in this situation. If Futurama's on tier 3, which he is, I think a commando would be excellent. It's not going to be game ending, but it would at least eliminate all this infantry for practically free. It would rank up in the process, and then maybe he could garrison it up into a hammerhead and drop it off in his opponent's base. Unlikely to do anything, but I feel commandos are underused. Futurama going to expand to the top, but he has already been found out. Rex is up there as well with an MCV. That's not a second MCV. He moved his primary MCV there, unless... No, he actually made 2 MCVs. There's a second one down there. Obelisk dropped. Is placed right here so he can nail those 2 shadow tanks, which is a pretty smart move. Rex was cleaned up in the south. Juggernauts for Futurama. But there's no Marv to tank damage, unfortunately, for him. And that Obelisk will not be focusing that down there, unfortunately. Juggernaut will fall once more to the Redeemer. Redeemer needs to focus the husk down, otherwise that's just going to be reclaimed once again. Futurama really struggling without a Marv. You really need a Marv to combat this Redeemer effectively. There's now Spectre artilleries coming out, and since Rex, never mind, Rex actually lost a refinery up in the north, so all the while that was happening, Rex lost his ability to harvest from the north. That sonic emitter there destroyed the refinery and prevented the harvesting from happening. Obelisk dropped on that MCV. We got ourselves a pretty close game here from the look of things. No Purifying Flame, I believe. I know there is Purifying Flame because the Black Hand Troopers changed. Even the house color is different. You can't capture tier 3 base defenses with engineers, no. That's not a thing. Okay, so Futurama, he delayed the expansion of Rex, but Rex still should get his refinery back up soon. Though these 2 watchtowers are annoying to deal with over time. That damage will mount up. Interesting drafting a Black Hand squad though. Does clean up one of the watchtowers. And now it's just a case of preventing Futurama from harvesting that top field, starving him out of this game. Rage Gen fires off. Redeemer has double engineer inside of it, so he's going to be repairing a lot of that incoming damage. There's only 3 Juggernauts, so the GI play is in a world of pain right now. No charged particle beams, which is an upgrade I have been often forgetting nowadays. The 3 Jugs still remain, so Futurama still believes he has hope. But I think it's all over because Rex has secured this top expansion. That is going to be GG. So the score is now level. It is 1-1. Rex with the Black Hand taking another game. And supposedly Black Hand is a weak faction. Yet they are winning 2-0 in this best of 9 series. The 2 games that have been played so far, Black Hand has taken. Zocom versus Reaper 17 in game number 3. Does anyone track faction win rate? It's tricky to assess because there's all sorts of variables like skill level. If you go by the noob games, then it skews the results, and you have to go by games that you know aren't trolling. Like for instance, the games I play, I often do strategies that no one else does and quite frankly should never work, but I do them anyways to sometimes get that one game that I feel is a blockbuster hit. It's worth it to me personally to lose 5, 10, 15 games in a row to get that one game that is amazing and special. But you can't really go by the win rate in that sense. Tournaments, sure. But just casual games, I don't think we'd learn anything from faction win rate. Though I can tell you roughly what the best factions are currently. I don't know for sure, but I believe in no particular order it's Nod, GDI, Reaper 17, Traveler, Steel Talons. Yeah, that in no particular order, and Might of Kane. It's Black Hand as well. I mean, come on, I just don't know all the factions are good. All of them are good, man. Some of them are good in some matchups, others are good in other matchups. There's no one faction that's dominant in all matchups. GDI, maybe it's the best well-rounded faction that deals with all of the factions the best. So maybe GDI, the vanilla GDI, is the best. But it's obviously capable of losing games, as we saw in that last game there. The macro video makes that a series. I made the first part of that like 4 years ago. But I called it that because that's what it felt like to me. I had half the eco compared to my opponent, and I won that match by microing my Scorpion tanks and securing 2 heroic ones, and then milking them for the remainder of the match. And that's a great thing about Command & Conquer 3. You don't have to be level with your opponent economically. There's comeback mechanics with unit veterancy, which other RTS games don't have, or they may do, but not as extreme as this one. In this game, veterancy, especially the heroic rank, goes a long way. You get self-repair, you get double the fire rate. I love how units also change the fire effects as well. It's a nice attention to detail. And they made unique firing effects for most of the units, which is pretty amazing. Considering the development cycle of Command & Conquer 3, to have that level of attention to detail is impressive. But yeah, Reaper 17 versus Zocom, I would favor the... You know, I don't really know. I don't really know. It can go either way. I think this is quite a balanced matchup. I think Zocom have a slight edge, but it can go one way or the other, depending on a multitude of factors. I suspect that Reaper 17, if they do get out a sufficient number of Shardwalkers and Seekers, should be able to handle Firehawks rather effectively. Blue Shard upgrade first probably is the way to go if Shardwalker spam is the way that Rex is going to play this one out. Shardwalker is just being annoying at this expansion. Some reconstruction drones right here would be good for Rex. You could even place down the Infestation Hive and Lightning Spike. Perhaps not the Infestation Hive because the fact that there's Rocket Harvesters there, they would shoot it down. One of the Shardwalkers falls. Rex did what I just said, but Second War Factory gets placed, so maybe that was not the right call after all. So I, as well as Rex, made the wrong move there. These APC rockets will thwart this attack. That was a wasted $1,500. But on the flip side, Rex does get scouting intel with these reconstruction drones for a good 45 seconds. It is 1-1 currently, the score. Attenuated force fields online for Rex. I suspect he'll be researching the blue shards as well. He's continuing to pump out these Shardwalkers, getting underway with an expansion. Futurama, let's see what his move will be. He's not going for any fast tech Firehawk this game, which in all honesty decreases the chance of Zocom's success drastically. Not building Zocom Orcas nor Firehawks is playing quite a neutral Zocom, I would say. It's not particularly effective. Airfield for Futurama. It's a bit late though, isn't it? Airfield does get deployed, however. It looks like ceramic armor could be on its way. 3 Predator tanks there. A 4th one does pop out. Futurama still continuing to build Scorpion tanks. This army of Predator tanks, I feel, is not sufficient to take on these tripods, though that Harvest is tanking some damage. Not getting the phase off on that tripod may be a critical mistake. What was Rex thinking? He should have phased the tripod before it died. Why did he let that die there? He could have just phased that tripod and crushed the Pred tanks. He had that fight in the bag. And also, where is the stasis shield, man? Where are the support powers? Scrin support powers are necessary in these fights. He engaged with 2 tripods and he did not utilize his powers effectively. I'm surprised he opted for that tripod shield upgrade. You know what I would have gone? I would have gone for Rav spam, man. Ravager spam and blue shard walkers. I'm telling you, it is the way to stop this. You want to counter to APC Pred? Blue shard Ravager spam and shard walkers. Take it from me, guys. I know the stats. Just build Ravagers of blue shards. If you see a bunch of Preds and APCs, build Ravs. But he won't do that here. My next YouTube video, though, I will be showcasing why that is the play. Rex should focus down that elite Predator tank there. That goes down. Descent's so effective, man. Look at that. There's some forces, or rather a Harvester on the right-hand side. Now, Futurama doesn't have much of an expansion, though he does have an expansion, which is noteworthy. The remainder of the Pred tanks will be falling. Futurama working on his refinery, and Futurama is now going to transition into an infantry spam. He's got missile squads out. I don't like missile squads at this stage of the game. Personally, I think it's the wrong choice. I think taking up to tier 3 and then opting for the Zone Raiders and a Commando is the better way to go. Why do I say Commando? Well, Commandos are great for baiting the Buzzer Swarm. What you can do is you can put the Zone Raiders in front of the Commando. So have the Zone Raiders right here and then the Commando slightly behind the Zone Raiders. So if your opponent is forced to use the Buzzer Swarm to kill the Commando, your Zone Raiders can just kill the Buzzer Swarm. But if the Buzzer Swarm's used on the Zone Raiders, then the Commando, which is behind the Zone Raiders, kills all of the Buzzers and the Buzzer Swarm does nothing. So that is a 2-punch combo that you can use to nullify and negate the Scrin support power. And not to mention the Commando itself can kill tripods rather effectively. All of those orcas but one do fall there. It looks like Futurama just gifted 3 of them for no reason. With these blue shards online here, I feel like aircraft will be nullified. Stasis shield finally does come down on these forces. Rex does not like to upgrade conversion reserves. He probably still has that old mindset where purchasing the upgrade reduces the damage of the conversion beam, which is this power here. It permits the Reaper tripod to charge up their beam and deal increased damage. It is 15% additional damage. It's great for the Reaper tripod. This force will be crushed. That army got destroyed, and just infantry alone I feel is not going to quite cut it. Zone Raiders coming out. This may even be a Commando. Sonic Emitter, Zone Raiders, but no power packs on his armory. So these Zone Raiders, even though the splash damage is great on them, I still feel like they're vulnerable, especially with no armor upgrades. Rex would be foolish to engage up there. Ravagers is definitely the play at this point. They counter the Zone Raiders effectively, They combo really well with the Shard Walkers. But I don't think Rex will do that. He's just going to spam Shard Walkers all day, which is actually a very good thing to do as well. Shard Walkers can deal with Zone Raiders very effectively. But he'll want to be careful. Rex, meanwhile, transferring his harvesters to his expansion. He's going to have a nice expansion, uncontested, up in the north there. Just one Sonic emitter for Futurama. I feel that Rex could go in there if he chose. Zone Raiders doing what they can. If Futurama micros, he can deal with the Shard Walkers. But the tripods can also crush. And that combined with that Buzzer Swarm destroying all of those Zone Raiders, that'll be GG. So Reaper 17, they don't really need Devastator warships. A lot of people feel like they must have dev ships, but the blue Shard Walkers just do the job fine. They kill all the infantry. And if you come up against spam, then just use the phase field and crush the enemy imp. So Rex takes another game there. He's going to be up in this series 2-1. He came from behind. He came from 0-0 to now being ahead 2-1 in this best of 9 series. He has 3 games to wrap this series up. Let's see if he can continue the momentum or if Futurama can bring it back. Yeah, I'm sort of filling in for Cybert because he is not so readily available to do show matches and casts for this game. So I do my best, and Bycrush as well provides fantastic coverage for you guys. But none of this would be possible without Shanks, who does sponsor these events. So the entertainment that you guys get is due to Shanks and his huge amount of funding to events and things like this. Oh, Barthez. Panic with the... Oh, thank you very much, Panic. Panic, we need to play some games, man. I think we're due some games soon. I always have the best games with Panic. Yeah, just great games versus Panic. I remember that Heroic Scorpion Tank game. Oh man, that was just a great game. We had more games like that. It was great. Yeah, I really do appreciate that. Sub, would be nice to see you back in Kane draft for a few games. It would be nice. Anyway, this is going to be a tournament arena, but the red zone version, it's Decrepit Arena. It's practically the same map, except the blue fields start off with full blue Tiberium fields. And Futurama will be opting with the Skrin and Rex as the Steel Talons. Also, these Tiberium objects exist in the center of the map, which kind of inhibits tank pathfinding a little bit. Doesn't do a whole lot though, to be honest. But interesting map. We've already got an interesting development though. Rex, he went straight for the blue Tiberium field. He's like, I don't want or need green Tiberium. I'm just gonna go straight for the blue tip, man. Go reap the rewards of this blue Tiberium field. And I have to say, guys, I love this play a lot more than Futurama. Futurama, he knows the writing is on the wall. Look at this, man. Look at this. 3 and 2 already on this blue Tiberium field. There's a war factory out as well. 1 or 2 Seekers is not going to do anything. Unless Rex did not scout this. 2 Seekers out for Futurama. But Rex is still Talons. He can make 1 Titan and hold this back. He shouldn't be pulling his Harvester towards the refinery. Yeah, just get it behind the war factory. Maybe build a silo to block this. Another refinery does fall. Harvester there will tank some damage. Remember, these are heavy harvesters. They've got 10% more health compared to the GDI one. That's one reason why you pick Steel Talons. And obviously nowadays there's more reasons to do so. But yeah, Steel Talons, they are a good faction now. And I think Rex just had a superior build order. But it's difficult to say because it has not been showing army size for both sides is roughly the same. Futurama now digging into his blue Tiberium field in the south, and this field doesn't start off full. This is a misconception. This can grow by an additional $5,000 if you leave it for a couple of minutes. So if Futurama not harvesting that right away, will be rewarded with more blue Tiberium field. And that is true for even pipeline problems. If you don't immediately go for that blue tip field, then you'll get more blue Tiberium, which I think is a nice touch. Disintegrators out for Futurama. I imagine Rex would be taking up to tier 3 for that railgun upgrade for those mammoth tanks. He's not a player I've seen play Steel Talons very often. He's very much into Nod and the Skrins, so him picking GI factions is certainly unique. Lots of harvesters, lots of refineries on this Tiberium field there. Rex built a third rev. That was a bit unnecessary if you ask me. All that did was delay his tier 3 by 30 seconds, so that was unnecessary, unless he was about to drop it on his first field, which had the crane, but then he lost the crane and was forced to place it on his original main on his Tiberium field there. Tech Center is down, and for Steel Talons, thanks to a change in R20, their railgun upgrade costs only $3,000. It's still 1 minute 30, so it's still the same upgrade duration, but it's $1,000 off for Steel Talons. I'd much rather change that than the unit costs, because then it would just make the cheese rushes and stuff like that broken. So that was one way of addressing the cost issue and Steel Talons without impacting the game too much. I would have liked to have seen an airfield before the tier 3, just to squeeze out a couple of hammerheads or orcas to deal with these tripods, and to even put a bit of pressure onto Futurama, who has been the aggressor since the start of this match. Futurama getting down a refinery on his third field. He's actually harvested more compared to Rex. Rex hasn't finished his second field. He's starting to take his third, so overall he has more Tiberium. If he's able to get that railgun upgrade online and several mammoth tanks, then perhaps he can survive and win through attrition. We shall see. 2 Seeker tanks though will be trying to kill this harvester. Will it go down? Mammoth tank slowly responding to this. Rex trying to micro this. Seeker tank will fall. That mammoth tank there did not use its rockets, so that is nice. We see some units moving across the map here. Rex can get early warning of this. He sees everything that's going on. That mammoth tank will be forced to pull back. Rex does not have a space command uplink. Mammoth tanks, he's only got 2 or 3. That's not enough to hold this many tripods. Remember, Futurama also has a stasis shield which he can use on this army. I imagine Rex is working on a tier 4 for that shockwave artillery. He needs to pick his fights wisely. He can't afford to be bleeding away any units. 5-6 tripods for Futurama. Tier 4 almost done, I presume. There's also the EMP grenades as well. Research, we can see on the command post there that Rex also purchased the EMP grenades. He sold his Conyard though. Why did he do that? Guy researched EMP grenades and didn't even build a barracks. That is quite strange. Anyway, both players used their support powers. Oh man, if he had built a barracks and got a couple of EMP squads out, then that would have been way better here. He could have EMP'd these tripods, but I don't think it would have mattered. In fact, yes, it probably would have mattered. So that was a critical mistake from Rex, because it could have also dealt with the descent spawning from this Hand of Nod. Railgun accelerators could be used on those mammoth tanks a bit late, but yeah, the tripods now are just too much, and the rest of these mammoth tanks will fall. So that is going to be it. Futurama levels the series. It's going to be 2-2 in this best of 9. Very even series. I thought with the build order that Rex did, taking that blue Tiberium field early was the superior play, but it wasn't shown at any point in that game. I think a couple MRTs with rockets inside would have been great for him, but he did not do that. How is the latest patch received? Oh, from the feedback I've received, it's been received well. People seem to enjoy it. We did have some issues with harvesters. Harvesters actually bug less now than they ever did in Kane's Wrath, which is amazing. So that is definitely sick progress as far as I'm concerned. All 9 factions are decent. As we can see, there's a lot of distribution with the factions that are winning. These guys are forced to switch their factions. They originally decided to pick Nod and Blackhand, which are considered weaker factions. So I would have actually liked to have seen more Nod versus Blackhand. I found it interesting how Futurama opted to specifically pick Blackhand versus Nod, because unless you kill Nod right away, the Laser Scorps have a huge advantage against Blackhand. But that didn't seem to materialize in that pipeline game. The Scorpion tanks just got melted by the flames. I think it's even worse for the Nod's player when you get the Purifying Flame, because then the flamethrowers, especially of the Purifier, can just burn down those tanks really quickly. Particle beams are very effective as well. You always lose to my Black Hand. State of the Union. Yeah, everyone should try and appeal to State of the Union to make a return. He needs to install Kane's Wrath again and play some games. Every time he appears on my stream, I will always say this: he needs to play. He's been away too long. But we see he still has interest in Kane's Wrath, because he occasionally tunes into Kane's Wrath related streams, and he sees a lot of entertaining series. So he sees that the game is active and there's still good players playing it. So plenty of players for him to play versus. Anyway, I did not introduce the players nor the factions that these guys chose, but Futurama leveled the series last game, and he is over here on the right hand side playing as the Steel Talons, and Rex over here on the left as the purple Zocom. Now, does Rex know Zocom enough? Is Rex familiar with Zocom enough to play this correctly against Steel Talons? Because I firmly believe that Zocom have a significant advantage versus Steel Talons. I think all of their sonic weaponry is extremely effective versus Steel Talons, because Steel Talons units are very slow, and that Zocom splash damage, especially from the Zocom Orca, the Zone Raider, and the Zone Shatterer, is great versus Steel Talons for that reason. Mix in infantry, predator tanks, and APCs, and you've got yourself a fine unit mix. It's about building a perfect unit composition, and every game is different. Senna has taught me this. If you, for instance, build too many missile squads and not enough predator tanks, then your army of imp will get run over by your opponent's preds. So you got to have the right unit mix. A Shatterer here and there is good. 3 or 4 Zocom Orcas is also handy. It's a skill to know when to build certain units in your army. Senna's got that down to a T, though Senna has not been in the best of states lately. By the way, that Harvester can't dock because the Pipple is right in front of the dock there. So that actually stopped the Harvester from getting in. That is huge, by the way. Futurama going to lose a Harvester there to a Pitbull blocking the entrance. You know, that might be an idea. Put 2 Pitbulls right in front of your opponent's ref entrance, and then just harass the Harvester. Even if you don't kill the Harvester, that's wasted time, because it's not unloading its Tiberium. So you're still causing them economic damage in the worst case scenario. 5 MRTs there for Futurama, garrisoned up as well, I presume. You can't see from the observer's point of view, but if I switch to his perspective, you'd see that those are garrisoned up with missile squads, with APCs. I like the Zocom Orca transition by Rex. I do indeed like this. There's also the tip field suits on their way, APCs as well, which is great. It's going to be a good answer to the hammerheads. Zocom Orca sweep in, kill 4 MRTs right away. What a fantastic trade for Rex. Rex just taking win after win in this game. He is doing fantastically well, and as mentioned, I just feel like Zocom does a better job in this matchup. You don't see them too often. A lot of players often think that it's over for Zocom because of the behemoths, but Steel Talons, they lack in many other areas that Zocom does not. For instance, in the infantry department, in the aircraft department, Steel Talons doesn't have access to a sonic emitter. There's all sorts of things. Shadow attacks, for instance, the Steel Talons does not get. I feel like the APC has more utility as well because it can shoot airborne targets. You can kill hammerheads with APCs, whereas Wolverines, you can only kill one unit type effectively. So you're encouraged as Steel Talons to also spend resources on those slingshots, whereas GDI, they don't need to invest so heavily into multiple different counters. And this is the artillery unit, the de facto artillery unit of Zocom, even though it's not technically one, but this unit here, the Zocom Orca, is what really kills the Juggernauts or the behemoths in Steel Talon's case. So yeah, sick micro from Rex. He's actually going to try and focus down the Pipples. Those Pipples, they're trading against Zocom Orcas. And it was a bit unnecessary to move in against the Harvester, but the ceramic armor will save the lives of all of those Zocom Orcas. I think not even a singular Zocom Orca fell there, which is surprising. There was like 10 or so Pipples, but they all distributed their shots, and that is yet again another huge victory for Rex. Without tungsten shells, without these Firehawks, it's just very difficult to counter those Orcas. And the thing is, Pipples are terrible against everything else that Rex has been building in the past minute. APCs, Preds, infantry, all of this stuff kills Pipples very effectively. So Zocom, a faction that people consider to be weak, is very much not so. And in GDI mirrors, I would argue that this faction, Zocom, is possibly the best. Like, it doesn't matter if your opponent has artillery, because you can just sweep in and kill a bunch of those. Here comes a bunch of Firehawks, but they're going to fly straight over these missile squads, and that is almost certainly going to mean a dead Firehawk. One Hawk down for one Orca. A good trade to be having if you're a Rex. If you're Rex. That Zocom Orca strike also going to be splashing that behemoth there, which is a big deal because there's no war factory on the front line to repair this one up, so that could actually matter going forward. A wall of watchtowers being deployed. I think at this time now it's the time to go for possibly mammoth tanks, or even transition into like a mass zone raider switch. Just sweep in with the zone raiders, take out all the watchtowers, and then you have free reign over the rest of this base. But instead, Rex opted for mass missile squads. He can probably take out the original main base. Futurama probably requires a ton of power to power all of those watchtowers, so maybe a transition into Orcas is the right way to go. For Firehawks, get the upgrades now for them, the Stratofighter boosters, and then go into like 4 or 5 Firehawks to start a bombing campaign on these power plants. But first, Rex has to deal with the enemy Firehawks. If he sees the airfield, he might be able to score all 4 with a supersonic airstrike or Orca orbital strike, which is what Zocom can do. And this is a pretty standard Zocom game. The thing I must say though is I don't like Rex waiting around while Futurama is allowed to recover. I feel like Rex has had ample opportunities to attack Futurama before the Watchtower Wall became really a problem. But the Marv is out, and that will soon be the tanking force of this army here. There's a lot of infantry, which will probably be the force that will be attacking Futurama. Futurama has defended himself, but it's difficult to defend everywhere on the map equally. He's forced to deploy watchtowers on all fronts, and all Rex is going to do is he's just going to find the ideal place to strike. He does have the mortars for his pitbulls, so perhaps those could sweep in and take out the undefended power grid in the back, even the tech center of Futurama. But here comes in this map. Might as well fill it up with some missile squads. But you're just going to use that as a tanking force, and I don't like this actually. There has to be some shockwave artillery. I was about to say, without a shockwave artillery, it would be silly to push into this. But the Marv is pushing through. Those watchtowers are being destroyed. Zircon Walkers as well sweep in. They kill all but one of the behemoths, and this infantry force is just unstoppable. There is so many harvesters here, so many missile squads here. The Marv failed, but it did its job. It tanked that damage. If I had one criticism, it would be that it was not garrisoned. And I feel like, yeah, the rest of the army comprising of the Preds and APCs will finish up the rest. The husks fall, and that's going to be GG. So that is a pretty good example of how to play Zocom and how to overcome Juggernauts and Behemoths. Because you've secured the mid-game. Your mid-game is superior. And you use that to win in the late game. So it doesn't matter if you don't have Behemoths, because you can counter Behemoths with your aircraft, with your advantage. And for all of you who are wondering, the Mammoth tank missile damage is the same as it was prior to 1.09 in Tiberium Wars, where the Mammoth got changed. Basically, EA nerfed the Mammoth tank, they buffed the Juggernaut, and then it became Jug meta. What a surprise, right? What a surprise. So basically what I did in R20 when I knew, and we all understood the problem, what the problem was. The problem was Juggernauts were too dominant in the GDI gameplay. Mammoth tanks were seen as sort of a meme unit. So what I decided to do was just look back at the patch history of Tiberium Wars and see what had been changed. And indeed, it got nerfed quite a lot. So what happened was I undid the nerfs that the Mammoth tank received. The Juggernaut got nerfed, so now we see both units. We don't just see Jugs, we see Mammoths and Jugs, which is better. Juggernauts now are an artillery unit. They are designed to counter buildings. They can counter vehicles just as well as they could before. Maybe not quite as good against Mammoth tanks on units such as tripods, but it is an artillery unit predominantly. And GDI now have access to better Mammoth tanks. It makes for a more interesting game. The game is more fun when more units in the arsenal are viable. When every game turns into fast tech, Marv, Jug, base push, it becomes a bit boring. Let's be honest, there's a lot more content in the game. And when I say content, I mean units that never see play or never saw play. Nowadays they do, because most units are good. Even mock infantry are decent now. You see a lot of people build Enlightened when years ago they were never ever built. That is quite frustrating. Harvester force to undock there. That's going to be delaying Futurama's economy. Now, speaking of Futurama, he's going to be over here on the left. He's going to be trailing this Best of 9 Series 3-2. He's going to be playing as the Cyan Reaper 17 and his opponent Rex on the right as the purple Mark Kane. The map's going to be Tournament Highlands. It looks like Rex has either forgotten about his Tiberium spike or he lost it somehow to an engineer. I'm not sure how that is possible. Did he really forget there's 2 spikes on this map? How could you make such an error, man? That seems to be quite a mistake. Do you really think Zokomar is the best epic in the game? Yes, it is. I mean, yes. It is by far the best epic unit in the game. Put 4 Zone Raiders in, or even 3 Zone Raiders, it's insane. It's insane. And with the Marvesting ability finally working as intended, what can I say? Marvs are better now. On a map like Tournament Highlands, a Marv is a great unit. DPS wise, it is fantastic. Perhaps it is less effective than the GI ones just because it doesn't have the insane Juggernaut support. But if you talk about just epic unit, standalone epic unit with no units to support them, then the Zocon Marv is the best one. If we talk then about units supporting epic units, then it is more tricky. It's more tricky to answer that question. I would say that it's rather balanced, with the Steel Talons epic unit being the worst just due to the fact that they get only 4 infantry units, no zone troopers. Seeker spam for Futurama. Rex, we can see, finally took that spike in the top right corner. But yeah, the Raider Buggy will scout these Seekers, and it's probably going to be Seeker spam all day. Futurama just going to abuse the apparent weakness of Mark of Kane in dealing with these Seekers. Rex opting with the Scorpion tanks, but those have a finite life. The moment Mechapedes come out, the moment those tripods come out, then yeah, these Scorps are pretty much obsolete at that point. Shard Seekers just completely massacre. Scorpion tanks with Dozer Blades, you really need lasers, which Mark Kane do not get access to. The only lasers that Mark Kane get are the supercharged particle beams, which upgrades their venoms and their enlightened. But against Shard Seekers, venoms are not particularly useful, let's be honest. I'm surprised that this force of Scorpion tanks is forcing back these Seekers. It's very surprising to me, actually. I don't know if Futurama is just tilted from the past few games, but he has more than enough forces there to take on these tanks. They're not even upgraded with Dozer Blades. Shardwalker does fall. I expect the Dozer Blade upgrade to be complete soon. It is 3/4 the way done. More reinforcements for Rex. That was an opportunity for Rex for Futurama to kill that. I don't see the reason for the Storm Riders personally. All that did was delay the tier 3. Tripods would have been better, or my preferred unit, the Mechapede. I think Shard Seekers is way better, but what is going on here? Futurama, he's going to lose all of his Seekers. And he went for Storm Riders. There's so many mistakes happening here. This is not, how can I put this? This is not usually what we see from Futurama. And that is probably going to be it. The phase was forced to be used on these harvesters. Bycrush pretty silent in the chat. He's about to lose a lot of points, I think, unless Futurama can bring this back somehow. One Reaper tripod out, but Rex establishing a third in the middle of the map, as well as leeching the blue Tiberium fields, or I presume he did whilst this has all been happening. The Storm Riders are doing decent work on this army. If they focus the bikes down, then they'll have free reign on the rest of the Scorpion tanks. A Storm column could potentially be coming down soon. 2 Enlightened squads here for Rex. He's going to EMP the tripod. He could potentially EMP it because he does have 2 there. One to ping off the shield, the other to EMP the tripod itself. 2 more harvesters falling. I like how he went for the harvesters, not the tripod. That's the game-winning move that we want to see. These tripods just being streamlined in one by one is not going to do it, and that's going to be game over. So Futurama takes Rex takes another game. That's 4-2 in favor of Rex now. He is on fire in this best of 9 series. He has just 1 game to finish this series, so that's some solid gameplay from Rex. These past 2 games have been solid from him. The one thing I have to note though is that game Futurama really shouldn't have lost, because Rex didn't capture his spike, and there was a lot of Seekers. There was like 9 Seekers against 4 unupgraded Scorp tanks. Futurama, for some inexplicable reason, did not want to take that fight. I guess that's why it's a best of 9 and not a best of 11, because there's only 9 possible factions to choose from. I say only, but 9 is a lot. There's like 81 matchups in this game, which is pretty crazy. So much content, so much replayability, which is why Kane's Draft is still played to this day. But anyways, in the south of this map, we're going to see up in this best of 9 series, 4-2, it's going to be Rex. He's going to be playing as the purple GDI, and in the top right hand corner will be Futurama, who probably feels a little bit demoralized after those past couple of games. He got brutalized, let's just say, in the past 2 games. So let's see if he can bring this back. It is his map pick. I do have to say I prefer GDI on a map like this. I think GDI has way better chances because their slow units are less of a problem. You know, units like Predator tanks are balanced by the fact that they're slow. But on a map like this, you can get those tanks across to your opponent's base in short order, and I think that is a big deal. It may even force a Nob player to go for a fast tier 3. It's going to be tricky. I don't think it's the map to play Nod on. I think Orcas are particularly good on this map as well, just squeezing out 4 Orcas and then harassing the Harvesters on the edge of the tip field would be great. Stealth tanks can be dealt with if you get the sensor pods. It's crucial that Rex does not put his refineries close together. Then he would lose 2 refineries to the Catalyst missile. So let's see if he chooses to do that. Okay, good. He's already not made that mistake. Futurama here. Is he going for a rush? No, he is not. Just regular builds coming out from either side. Futurama establishing some vision up in the top. This is a very classic map. Small Town USA. This was one of the maps. This was actually the first map that anyone got to play in this game at Anti-Bureau Wars ever. This was the map that people played in the C&C3 demo. This was the first map ever played in Tiberium Wars. And we are seeing it in 2023, all these years later. Who would have imagined it? Still, it's a fantastic map now and then. I'm not a huge fan, but I do like it. It captures the blue zone feel very well. This is exactly how the developers envisioned the game in a blue zone, which is nice. The detail is great. I just love maps like this for the detail. But Rex going for that early expansion. Futurama, on the other hand, he is teching up to possibly tier 3. He's got a tier 2. Rex, instead of going for a tier 2, he's going for an expansion. He's going for 3 refineries, man. Oh man, without anything to punish this soon, this is going to be a big deal, because even if Futurama kills 1 refinery at the main field, it doesn't matter, because there's 2 refineries. Going to be soon 2 refineries on this expansion. I don't know what Futurama is doing. He's going for double MCV. He's working on his tier 3. Does Rex know this is coming? That is the question. This could be brutal if unscouted. Rex seems to not be aware. He's not even queuing units from his war factory, so I feel like he is going to be in trouble against this push. He can go for double airfield, man. I'd like double airfield Orca in this situation. I like it a lot, but he's going for tier 3 instead. Needs to be cautious of the flame tanks, which can possibly arrive from this area here. Oh man, speak of the devil. It's always, it's these things you get from experience. You just know at this stage of the game, there's going to be a 1-click and there's probably going to be a flame tank around about here. So that's a mistake from Rex. The good thing for Rex is he does have 3 Orcas out, but he may be just fixated solely on attacking Futurama's base. Futurama get garrison up this building. double obelisk drop in there, but the harvesting has not yet been halted despite the obelisk. The obelisks are completely out of range of these harvesters, and that's just going to give Rex time to harvest more Tiberium. Flame tank will find the war factory. Doesn't look like Rex is paying attention to that. Was any harvesters destroyed here? Maybe one or so. Possibly not though, because there's still 5 out for Futurama. Futurama with these obelisks will focus down that MCV, and the flame tank will finally be destroyed, not before taking out the war factory. But that is a big deal, because now, yeah, Rex has no production. So I think that is GG, right? Futurama wins this game because now there's no production. There's an avatar. I mean, maybe if you kill the MCV, but Rex needs to make his mind up. He needs to attack pretty quickly. He can summon in Bloodhounds. He can get the hard points upgrade, but oh man, this stealth tank is going to be quite a problem. There is a watchtower there for some defense. Hammerhead's coming in. AP ammo is researched. Obelisk of Light will finish off that Juggernaut, which is the only artillery unit left for Rex, and with that, Rex will call the GG. So yeah, that is it. Rex loses that game. Just failed to scout Futurama correctly. He responded to that bad. I think he should have maybe had a second war factory instead of an airfield at his expansion. Just maybe gone all out on the inv, on the Preds. Possibly, I don't know. I think Orcas may be a better choice. Go for an APC grenade with some Pred tanks, move them across the map, and just have 8 Orcas and just push into your opponent's base with Sensor Pod and just kill 5 harvesters, maybe the Avatar as well. It's a play like that that will win you the game. You can probably sacrifice your main base to kill your opponent's harvesters. Futurama, I'm going to go with the Traveler, likewise for Rex. Expect to see a lot of Descents, expect to see a lot of Gunwalkers, maybe some Mind Control and Ravagers. Any more show matches after this? Not from me, though. If Bike Rush is around, he would possibly cast 1 or 2 more if he is around still. But this is the show match I agreed to cast, and I've been enjoying it so far. Anyways, in the right hand side of this enjoyable and balanced show match will be Futurama playing as the Trana 59. He is still in a do or die situation. He has to win the next 2 games to take this series. Rex, on the other hand, has a bit of comfort knowing he can drop this game, but he may not want to, because it's probably going to put him in an awkward spot going into the next game. It's going to give Futurama a lot of confidence, a lot of momentum. That win on Small Town Arena will definitely be helping him. And Rex just kills the engineer right away. So that's a fault of Futurama for not playing the map maybe very much, which is probably why Rex chose this map, because maybe Futurama hasn't got a lot of experience on it. He should have had some descents or something here to stop the buzzer. I mean, I knew that this would probably be killed. So Rex will have a huge advantage early on, man. Massive advantage. If he kills this spike, he will probably win in this game. There's no opponent descents to worry about. I like how he made descents and not his opponent. He's going to jump on this Gunwalker. He's going to kill it as well. This Gunwalker will be falling. Descents will be pushed back. Gunwalker does fall. He still retains 2 or 3 squads there. Yeah, 4 squads actually. Those descents still alive, still causing problems. This is going to force Futurama to build possibly another buzzer hive. Futurama fuses a buzzer to this Gunwalker, and that should make it so it's impossible to really kill a harvester. 3-1 there for Futurama. Rex going to squeeze out his 3rd harvester. He's also working on his 2nd ref at the same time, possibly stalling his 3rd half. A garrison there for Futurama. And for every second that ticks away, Rex will be securing himself an advantage, because he's been generating resources with his tip spike, whereas his opponent has not. Rex, if he's feeling ballsy, he could just make an assimilator and rally over to this tip spike and get that $500. He'd secure it for himself, and he would deny Futurama at that $500. I think he's even doing it as well. No, he's going to Synths instead. Okay, I would have personally went for it. Or maybe even just sent the Synths over there to kill the Spike, because Futurama will look to take that back eventually. Nice defense from Futurama, but it's still not looking good for him. Rex has to take a bad trade at some point. But yeah, Futurama is on 5 and 2. He's working possibly on the stasis chamber. Rex will throw away his disintegrator squads now. That is unfortunate for him. And there's another assimilator out. So he's going to go ahead and take over this tip spike, which I like a lot. Unless he's going for the EMP control center. But I think Rex knows that that is uncaptured. He's going to go straight for that. A harvester going to the blue Tiberium field. It may be exactly what Futurama needs to come back in this game. But fortunately for Futurama, the disintegrators are not rallying over there. And there is some time to go before this harvester will die to these ascents, soon to be upgraded with advanced articulators. Another gunwalker gets pulled there. Harvester docking sometimes a little bit weird in R20, but they don't bug ever. You can see they still dock normally. But if you force them off the line and try and dock with some building in the way, then that can happen. It's pretty rare though, but you see the harvest dock normally. I have, from my personal experiences, have had better harvester behavior in R20B than I can ever remember in this game. Like, I have not had a single, not even one harvester bug ever. So I will take that as an improvement. Even if it's not perfect, if there's no dancing harvesters refusing to dock in the ref, that is a huge improvement, let's be honest. Gunwalker v Gunwalker. Not a particularly interesting fight, but the disintegrators in the south, I tell you what, if those go and remain unscouted, Rex may be falling in this match. Not unless Rex has a tier 2. If he builds a tier 2, which he does have here now, he can use the Buzzer Swarm, or better yet, he can use the Infestation Hive and kill all the disintegrators. Rex, on top of this though, he's going to leave some forces at his base, so he's not committing his whole army. And he's attacking from multiple fronts. He's got units over here, units here. Futurama trying to stabilize in this game. He's got a strike force of Descents over on the left hand side. A lot of people say they don't like trap mirrors, but I think they're very skill intense. As you can see, a lot of units had to be controlled. One mistake and it's over for either side. It is a very cutthroat matchup. These gunwalkers will find the Descents, and this is unfortunate for Futurama. He was expecting this to be undefended, so that was taken out. So that's unfortunate. That's probably going to be what Rex needs in this game. He's got a huge amount of gunwalkers just milking Descents being spawned out of this portal. Buzzer highs being dropped. Futurama in panic mode, and Rex now on that tier 3 just going to spam. I mean, he can do what he wants pretty much at this point. Prodigy probably going to come out soon. Descent still being made. I guess Futurama needs some way to spend that cash, but it's only a matter of time at this point. Futurama does secure his Tiberium spike, but it is obvious that that was the reason for Rex's dominant show here. He's all over Futurama. Look at this. Rex in multiple fronts, just all over the map. He's going to also expand possibly as well. Puts down a gravity stabilizer just in case he gets his drone ship destroyed when expanding. So he's on point. He has this series wrapped up, and he's probably just going to win from here on out. I like how he's got these Descents on the back there. No need to expend them into the Gunwalkers. Gunwalkers are out for Futurama. He's not really out of it, but almost out of it, because there's probably going to be mechas out. In fact, why is Rex not building Mechapiece, man? Mechapiece is a much better unit to be building. Gives you much more map pressure. I like Mechapiece more personally. But Futurama, he refuses to die. He's still got decent eco on his Tiberium field. And maybe I'm calling this a little bit too soon, actually, because there's 3 Mechapeds out for Futurama. Somehow, Rex doesn't have the forces that I thought he did have. And you know what, guys? I think one bad engagement, and this could go horribly south for Rex. Cultist moves in, takes over the Gunwalker. The tripod, that gets recaptured. Mechapede there as well. Futurama micros that one back. Gunwalkers as well. Just microing them around. And yeah, it's a battle of micro. Rex, I think, has better micro overall, but it's difficult to say right now. The Gunwalkers are still around for both sides. The tripod's probably going to be better in this situation if there's not enough of those. Oh, by the way, the drone ship got captured by the Prodigy. Prodigy still makes it out alive, so the Buzzsaw must have been used, and he failed to get that Prodigy. That is going to be it. Rex takes that game, and that is going to be it in this series. It's going to be 5-3 for Rex, so well done to Rex. He takes that series. Futurama, it wasn't his day, and yeah, it's unfortunate how he lost that engineer in the start of that match. I guess next time he'll know he'll have to escort his engineer with something to avoid it happening again. So that is going to be that.